Cubase provides all sorts of useful tools to let you navigate around your projects within the project window. Now, I've talked about some of the obvious key command options in another video, but one of the other options that you can use is cycle markers within the marker track. Cycle markers can serve a dual purpose. They provide you with a very clear visual guide to the different sections within your song, the intro, verse 1, verse 2, chorus, bridge, and so on. But they also provide you with a very quick way of selecting that area of a song, a particular area of a song, and placing the left and right locators around that area ready for cycle playback as you want to work and develop that song section further. So let's explore what cycle markers have to offer. The first step is to add a marker track. Go to the Add Track dialog. We can pick a marker track, Add Track, push it above the drum folder, and ideally, really, we want the markers to be visible on screen all the time, even when we scroll through our project. So we will also activate the Divide Track List function, and we can now place the marker track in the upper part of the track list so that when we scroll in the lower part, the marker track will remain visible at all times. As you can see on this track, there are two buttons here. One adds what's called a position marker, a standard marker. The second button adds a cycle marker. Position markers are also very useful, and I'll do a further video on those at some point. But for this video, let's focus on cycle markers. The most common use of cycle markers is to identify a song section within your project. So here I've got my left and right locators around what is a chorus section. And with the locators in place, you simply press the Add Cycle Marker. And a cycle marker is then added around that area of the project. If we wanted to add a further cycle marker, there's a verse section of our song, we could do that. There's the second verse, our second chorus, our final chorus. I've now added cycle markers around each of the main sections of my song. If we open the markers window from the inspector panel, clicking the position field, I can ensure that the markers are now listed in the order in which they appear along the timeline. And if I haven't added the cycle markers in that order, I can reassign the marker IDs so that the ID numbers now are also sequenced along the timeline. You can, of course, add text labels, and you can see as I do this, those descriptive labels are also added along the timeline. I've now completed that process. Close that dialog for a moment. We can also, if we wish to, color code our markers. You can, of course, change the size of cycle region. You can delete a cycle marker using the delete button on your computer keyboard. If you want to, you can create overlapping cycle markers. So let's imagine we wish to put a cycle marker around the bridge and the final chorus. Highlight that section, add a marker, and that further cycle marker gets placed on the marker track. It overlaps with the bridge and the chorus markers that we've already created. So if you do need to put cycle markers around longer sections of your song, overlapping some of the individual sections, that's perfectly possible to do. So even having done just this, placed our cycle markers around each of our major song sections, added labels to them, and then color-coded them, we now have a really handy visual guide as we navigate our project. And because it's sitting in the upper part of the track list, we've used the Divide Track List option, it stays visible even when we scroll through the multiple tracks within the lower part of the project window track list. However, the additional bonus is the ability to now make time selections based upon the cycle markers, to place the left and right locators around a cycle marker. And the simplest way to do that is simply to double click on the cycle marker itself, and the job's done. Around verse 2, double click and the job's done. Note that as we do that, the cursor is also placed at the beginning of a cycle marker, ready to initiate cycle playback through that selected section of the project. There are other ways to select specific cycle markers. If you have a number keypad on your computer keyboard, you can simply press the Shift key and then number on the pad, and that will select the numbered marker. So if we wanted to select our first marker, Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3, Shift 4. You can also select a specific marker from a drop-down list on the marker track itself. So we can see our labelled sections here. We could pick verse 2, chorus 2, and so on. It's worth noting, however, that you use the key command options, Shift and a number, or you select a marker from the drop-down list. That doesn't actually move the cursor to the beginning of the selected cycle region. So, for example, if I hit chorus 2 from this list, my locators get placed around chorus 2, but the cursor is still sitting where it was previously. There is a key command, of course, to move the cursor to the left locator. It's on the number pad of your computer keyboard. It's simply the 1 key, and you're then ready to start cycling playback. Now, when it comes to cycle markers, in the vast majority of cases, that might be all you need. But in Cubase Pro, there are some additional options. For example, you can add multiple marker tracks. And that might be useful if you want to add both positional markers and cycle markers in the same project. You could use one marker track for your positional markers and another marker track for your cycle markers. And depending on which set of markers you wanted to work with, you can just change which marker track is active at any one time. One of the other options with cycle markers available to Cubase Pro users is when you do Export Audio Mixdown. Within the dialog, you can use cycle markers to define which sections of a project you want to export based upon the cycle markers, and you will get separate audio files created for each of those sections. One further option for Pro users is in the toolbar. You can enable the marker section, and this provides you with a number of clickable buttons on the screen within the toolbar, and these allow you to move to a specific marker. Note that by default, this simply moves the cursor to a specific marker. So if we click on marker 2, the cursor moves, marker 3, marker 4, and so on. If you want to actually move the locators at the same time, open the Edit panel. In the marker settings, choose Cycle follows when locating to markers. And then when you press one of these buttons, not only does the cursor move, but also the left and right locators move along with it. Again, that's an option available to Cubase Pro users. Using cycle markers on the marker track is just another great example of a detail within the Cubase feature set that can help your workflow. They provide a great visual reference for your song structure along the timeline. You can leave pinned to the top of your project so you can see where you are as you navigate around the project. But equally, they allow you to very quickly select sections of your project, place the locators around those sections, and focus on those sections as you continue work on them. And of course, the less time that you spend navigating, the more time you've got for the creative aspects of your project's development. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. If you enjoy this kind of Cubase and music tech related content, then do subscribe to the channel. And if you want some further Cubase resources, tips and workshop ideas, for example, check out the links in the video description below. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, enjoy getting some music made.